chapter 3, verse or text number 20. And this verse says, Karmanaiva hi samsidim astita jana kadaya loka sangraham evapi sampasyam kartum arhasi. Kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. Well, it's like saying follow the leader. Purport by his divine grace, Kings like Janaka were all self-realizing. Consequently, they had no obligation to perform the prescribed duties in the Vedas. Nonetheless, they performed all prescribed activities just to set examples for the people in general. Janaka was the father of Sita and father-in-law of Lord Sri Rama. Being a great devotee of the Lord, he was transcendently situated, but because he was the king of Mithila, a subdivision of Bihar province in India, he had to teach his subjects how to perform prescribed duties. Lord Krishna and Arjuna, the Lord's eternal friend, had no need to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra, but they fought to teach people in general that violence is also necessary in a situation where good arguments fail. Before the battle of Kurukshetra, every effort was made to avoid the war, even by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the other party was determined to fight. So, for such a right cause, there is a necessity for fighting. Although one who is situated in Krishna consciousness may not have any interest in the world, he still works to teach the public how to live and how to act. Experienced persons in Krishna consciousness can act in such a way that others will follow, and this is explained in the following verse. Well, let's go to the following words. Verse, text 21. Yad yadacharati shrastas tat evataro jana sayat pramanam kurite lokastad navartate. Famous verse, chapter 3, text 21 of this Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And it says, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he set by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. People in general always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Lord Chaitanya said that a teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. One who teaches in that way is called Acharya, or the ideal teacher. Therefore, a teacher must follow the principles of Shastra, or scripture, to teach the common man. The teacher cannot manufacture rules against the principles of revealed scripture. The revealed scriptures, like Manu Samhita and similar others, are considered the standard books to be followed by human society. Thus, the leader's teaching should be based on the principles of such standard shastras. One who desires to improve himself must follow the standard rules as they are practiced by the great teachers. The Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees, and that is the way of progress on the path of spiritual realization. The king, or the executive head of a state, the father, and the school teacher are all considered to be natural leaders of the innocent people in general. All such natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with standard books of moral and spiritual codes. Well, you can't be a teacher unless you are trained to be a serious devotee, following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. Then you can be a teacher because you teach by example. Uh, and Srila Prabhupada, he taught by example. And that means that he was a perfect devotee in all the senses of the meaning, by following all the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. And he never created something new. He followed the original Sanatana Dharma perfectly. He might have made some very, let's say, minor changes, but nothing major. Why? Because we don't have to add something new to the practice of Krishna consciousness. We simply have to follow the original teaching Krishna gave to Arjuna 5,000 years ago. Therefore, the leader's teaching should be based on the principles of such standard shastras. One who desires to improve himself must follow the standard rules as they are practiced by the great teachers. The Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees. And that is the way of progress on the path of spiritual realization. Well, we are trying to follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, who is following in the footsteps of his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is following in the footsteps of his guru, Gorkishore Babaji, and Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and so forth. So there is the parampara principle of bona fide teachers. And the bona fide teachers do not change anything. They simply explain things as they are without addition or subtraction. And that's very important. Otherwise, if people start speculating, then very easily the whole Vedic knowledge becomes corrupted. So it's very important not to corrupt the Vedic knowledge by speculation and by adding or subtracting from the original teaching. So all such natural leaders have a great responsibility for their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with standard books of moral and spiritual codes. Well, what are the standard books? Number one is Bhagavad Gita. Number two is Srimad Bhagavatam. Number three is Chaitanya Charitamrita. So if you stick to those four major books, you don't really need anything else. And you won't destroy the purity of the teaching. We don't have to invent anything new. We already have the perfect knowledge given to us by the acharyas in the program of huh? Yes. So one who desires to improve himself must follow the standard rules as they are practiced by the great teachers. The Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees, and that is the way of progress on the path of spiritual realization. So to follow the footsteps of great devotees means it means that you can't imitate them, but you can follow their instructions. We're not on the level of such great devotees. So there's a difference between following their teaching and imitating or trying to emulate what they do. No one can really emulate, let's say, the activities of a pure devotee, but one can follow the instruction of the pure devotee. So the pure devotee can do things that are beyond the scope of a normal person. But if we simply follow their instructions, then we make genuine spiritual advancement. So it says here, the Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees, and that is the way of progress on the path of spiritual realization. Well, we saw Srila Prabhupada, he was chanting his rounds every day. He was waking up very early, and he was always engaged in Krishna conscious activities 24 hours of the day. And he would give regular lectures. He would inspire devotees to read his books, and above all, eat prasadam and chant Hare Krishna. If you do those two things, eating only Krishna prasadam and chanting Hare Krishna in the association of devotees, you make a lot of spiritual advancement very quickly. Okay, so another takeaway here is all such natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with standard books of moral and spiritual codes. Well, that means we don't have to read a lot of books. We just have to read Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita and maybe the Bhakti.
Nectar of Devotion.
Yeah, Nectar of Devotion. Yeah, those 4 books. You don't have to read many, many books. And in fact, even if you only read one book, the Bhagavad Gita, you'll get all knowledge necessary to go back to Godhead. So we have what are called libraries, and they're full of thousands of books. And someone is considered educated who's read many, many books. But actually, all you have to do is to know one book, Bhagavad Gita, and you will have all education. That's the difference between the modern concept of by reading a lot of books, you become educated. But actually, in traditional, let's say, Sanskrit learning, all you have to learn is one book, and that is Bhagavad Gita. And just like the Christians, they know mainly one book, that's the Bible. The Muslims, they know mainly one book, that's the Quran, right? And Hare Krishna movement, we know mainly one book, it's Bhagavad Gita. But there's no other book as profound as the Bhagavad Gita, which is not only profound, but it's the oldest book in the history of the world. It's older. The Bible is only 2,000 years old. The Quran is 1,500 years old. The Buddhist books, maybe 2,000 or 2,500 years old. Bhagavad Gita goes back millions of years. The first time it was spoken was by Krishna to Vivasvan, or the sun god. And the last time it was spoken directly was by Krishna to Arjuna. 5,000 years ago. So there's no book as old as Bhagavad Gita, and Bhagavad Gita has never been changed. At least the Bhagavad Gita we have is Yetarup, as it is. So it's been preserved perfectly. Many things are adulterated over time, but fortunately, because of the Krishna conscious sampradaya, the the purity of the original text, Bhagavad Gita, has not been adulterated. And that's because of the Vaishnava acharyas. So even if we never read any other book, but just Bhagavad Gita, that's enough education to go back to Godhead. All right, so it says here that Lord Chaitanya said that a teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. One who teaches in that way is called acharya or ideal teacher. So that's a very significant statement. A teacher or leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he smoked. So Lord Chaitanya said that a teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. So that's exactly what Prabhupada did. He taught us to follow the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness. No meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, intoxication, no speculation, and so forth. And always chanting Hare Krishna, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So he made it very simple for us to make very quick and very profound spiritual advancement. Previously, it was much harder to make spiritual advancement. If you look at Lord Brahma, he had to meditate uh, at least millions of years before he became self-realized. But today, in a matter of a very short time, we can become self-realized. That's because of the mercy of the Vaishnava acharyas. Brahma had to meditate millions of years before he was self-realized. But today, one can become self-realized very, very quickly by following strictly the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. This is something special of Kali Yuga. Now, there's a lot of bad things in Kali Yuga, but there are some very good things also that we should take advantage of. So one thing is that previous times, if you thought of doing something good, you had to actually do it in order to get the benefit. In Kali Yuga, simply thinking of doing something good, you get the benefit of it. So there are different, these are called dispensations, special arrangements in this age to make it easier for people to make spiritual progress. So we should take advantage of that. Okay, in the purport also it says, one who desires to improve himself must follow the standard rules as they are practiced by the great teachers. The Srimad Bhagavatam also affirms that one should follow in the footsteps of great devotees. Now, that means you don't imitate, but you follow their example or their teaching. And that is the way of progress on the path of spiritual realization. The king or the executive head of a state, the father, and the school teacher are all considered to be natural leaders of the innocent people in general. All such natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with standard books of moral and spiritual codes. They're very eloquent statements by Prabhupada. And what are those standard books? And as Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, and so forth, Nectar of Devotion. You only need those 4 books. You don't need any other book. Actually, you only need Bhagavad Gita. But if you want to have more instructions, we have another 3 books to read and study and teach from. Okay, so are there any questions? This verse says, Yadyadatcharatishata Evataro Jana Sa Yat Pramanam Purute Lokastat Anuvartate. This is a famous verse, often quoted. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world follows. Haribol. Are there any questions? See what time is it?
Just about time.
Just about that.
Huh?
7:29.
Yeah, so we finish at 7:30, right?
Yes,
Mhm,
Maharaj.
yeah.
So are there any questions?
In this purpose, Srila Prabhupada is mandating that all the people who are in the leadership position should be well versed with Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad.
Yes.
The king or the executive head of a state, the father and the school teacher are all considered to be natural leaders of the innocent people in general. All such natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with standard books of moral and spiritual.
Yes.
That's our take.
Well, you know, the problem that we have today is people think the more books you read, the more education you get. But actually, if you simply learn Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, you have all knowledge. Or even if you only know the Bhagavad Gita, you have all knowledge. So this is what is traditional. And the Muslims follow it, and so do the Christians. The Christians, they know 1 book, Bible. And the rest of their life, they talk about that 1 book. And the Muslims, they know 1 book, it's the Quran. And the rest of their life, they just talk about the Quran. And we have Bhagavad Gita. Now, what we have is better than what the Muslims have and what the Christians have and what the Buddhists have, etc. Why? Well, the Muslims haven't learned yet that you shouldn't eat meat. You're right. So that proves that there's something missing in their
Mhm.
teaching or in their shastra. And the Christians also, they haven't understood, not all of them, but most of them have not understood that you shouldn't eat meat. So you see, the Krishna consciousness or philosophy given by the great Acharya has given the full gamut of truth so that one can make genuine spiritual progress. Whereas there's still something missing in Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and so forth. So, and it's a fact. The Muslims, the they will, if you tell them to stop eating meat, they won't agree. You know, there was 1 man who came to see me. His son was sick, so he heard about me that I was some kind of a person who give good advice. So he came and he said, how can you help my son? I said, well, the first thing is he should become a vegetarian. He said, no way. He said, no way, no way. My boy has to eat meat. Then I realized how much I can tell this man. He was adamant. He said, my son has to eat meat. So that's what we're faced with, these types of adamant fanatics. Not everybody is like that, but of course, the the concept of eating meat is actually barbaric, not for civilized people, because you have to kill an animal. Now, you might not kill the animal, but you have to pay someone else to kill the animal, and especially a cow. So everybody involved in killing the cow, transporting the dead cow, cutting the cow, selling the cow meat, eating the cow meat. Every one of those people involved in that process, they're going to suffer terribly because the cows are sacred. Krishna is a cowherd boy himself. So if you protect cows, as we do, then Krishna will protect you and be very favorable to help you in spiritual life. But if you're going to be killing cows, that is one of the worst mistakes people make. And because of that, you can see today there are, I think it's about, maybe you can look this up. Every year in the United States, at least 60 million cows are eaten or killed and eaten. That's not counting out chickens and fish. When you count chickens and fish, it goes into the billions. Right? But if we just say cow, I think it is at least 60 million cows in the United States. What's it say?
29 to 30 million.
30 to 35 some places, yeah.
Oh,
So about 35 million on the high end.
So I'm wrong. It's 35 million. Yeah.
And multiply that number. Well, I was researching this. Apparently, 1 kilo of steak, which is cow meat, is about 55,000 liters of water.
Yeah. Okay.
And they were saying this was a speech in the United Nations, and the guy was saying that amount of water is enough to sustain a human on a vegetarian diet for more than a year. And this is one meal of a meat eater.
Right. So we're wasting a lot of water
Yeah.
by eating cows. Yeah, definitely. So, what happens in places like the Sahara Desert, where there's hardly any water. It's a big desert, right? People are dying like anything. Okay, so are there any questions? We're almost at the end here. What is a takeaway from this? One who desires to improve himself must follow the standard rules as they are practiced by the great teachers. There you are. That's our takeaway for today. One who desires to improve himself must follow the standard rules as they are practiced by the great teachers. Pretty simple and straightforward, but the truth. Who are the great teachers? They are the acharyas. And for us, it's Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and so forth. But basically Srila Prabhupada, because he has filtered and given us the pure essence of all the teachings of the Vaishnava Acharyas. Therefore, we simply read Prabhupada's books as we're doing with his purports, then we're getting all the traditional knowledge as it is without any adulteration. And Prabhupada himself said that his purports are spiritual ecstasies. So if we go to read not only the verse, but the purport, I know some devotees never read the purports, they just read the verses. You ever know anyone like that?
Yeah. I was, in fact, it was highlighted in a lecture recently. I was listening by Radhesham Prabhu. He was saying that a lot of the people, they read just the translation. They don't read Sanskrit. They don't read the purport. They just read the translation just to finish the book.
The verse.
Yeah,
Never finish the book quickly.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was highlighting the crux is in Prabhupada's purports. Yes, translation is there, but purports is where the
Yeah, you can't understand the verse
yeah,
without, but because otherwise you're just going to speculate.
yeah.
You have to definitely read the purport.
And one of the other things he was also sharing, that he met this person in Vrindavan, like in Govardhan. He was doing Dandavat Parikram, and he's a ISKCON devotee, and this person was like, he has so many grievances with others, so he's saying, I'm just, doing this Dandavat just to get a bit more humble. And but you don't go to temple, you don't go to program, you don't associate with devotee, you don't read books, you don't listen.
Don't go hear lectures.
Like that person doesn't do any of this. Like he was sharing with Prabhu, so he was told, Radhesham Prabhu was mentioning about this. Another devotee he met in Govardhan, who doesn't go to temple, doesn't associate. He's an initiated devotee, but doesn't read, doesn't listen. But he's doing parikram, and parikram is only going to make his heart more harder. Then he will have more grievances with others. He was saying reading is important, and then he talked about reading, that in reading, just read the purports, not just the translation.
Yeah. Well, what can you do? People deviate
Yeah.
from the simple practice of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll stop right there. And our takeaway is
One who desires to improve himself must follow the standard rules as they are prescribed, practiced by the great teacher. Is that the one?
one who desires to improve himself must follow the standard rules as they are practiced by the great teachers. Harivilas.
Mahajana Yenagata.
Ajahn, is it?
Mahajana Yenagata. Tapanta.
Yes.
So the verses. Yeah, whatever the path the great leaders have taken, great acharyas have taken, then follow that.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to invent anything. That is the mercy of Prabhupada.
Any other?
Too many inventors. We want followers. Any other questions from anyone?
Yeah, any other questions online?
Today is the last day of Kartik Maharaj.
Okay. Is there anything special we have to do?
Kartik Purnima, full moon day.
Do you want to light another lamp?
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. We'll do that. Okay, we'll end the session here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.